What is going on? Welcome back to Trending Stocks. So we got the earnings. Just going through them as we speak, but basically the earnings call is in around 8 minutes. I'll go over some of the data points, what's just came out as well, and then I'll mute myself. We can listen to the obviously whoever's going to be speaking during the call. And then, yeah, it'll be interesting. I know this one definitely was a crazy volatile ride. You can tell, so it did have an initial spike, and that was largely because of this right here. So they came out with saying T2 announces FDA 510K submission to expand the pathogen detection on its FDA cleared T2 bacteria panel. I don't know if this is necessary, and plus the time frame on this, but in the earnings they do quote saying within Q4 they plan on generating roughly around $2.6 million off of this product. So clearly the turnaround time isn't going to be that great, and maybe they're just expanding on it and it's not really going to deter any current marketing of that. So I think initially when this came out, it caused that very big spike up, plus shorts and also many other things. So shorts today increased around 282,000 shares. That is known shorting. With T2, there's a significant amount of naked shorting, so there's that attribute behind it. But when it comes down to the earnings, so I'm just going through some of the highlights. The actual document has not been submitted to the SEC as of yet, from what I can see. But it says that in Q3, they did have a total revenue of 1.5 million, a decrease of 60%. So I think they did miss. The forecast for revenue was supposed to be around 2.6 million. And for Q4, it was supposed to be 3.4. So the fact that they're stating 2.6 is going to be for this new technology, fairly good for that. Achieved sepsis test panel revenue of 1.1 million, a decrease of 31% compared to the prior year. Executed contracts for 5 T2DX instruments during the third quarter, including 2 in the US and 3 internationally. I think ultimately when it comes down to T2, there's going to be a lot of stuff that goes over even my head. I'm not ever going to pretend I know exactly the intricate details of this. I'm more technicals focused and more just of an actual trader per se. I normally don't invest in biotech companies, so just take that with a grain of salt as well. I'm not a financial advisor. One thing that, or at least one thing that I'm definitely looking for is this. So cash and cash equivalents totaled 24.3 million. Like I said, this doesn't actually include the actual true earnings, so I don't see the numbers yet. Most likely I'll just have to wait for the SEC filing, but I want to know how much money they burnt through. What is their burn rate right now? Is this cash sufficient? They did also state in here that they did, I think it was 20 million or 10 million at the money in Q3. I think that was a little bit lower here. So yeah, they converted 10 million or approximately 20% of its loan to equity. So that was done during Q3. And there was also another thing as well. Thanks for, if you guys have any questions or anything in the chat, let me know. Paul, Leo, appreciate all you guys coming on. But so far, it is taking a tumble, so 24.6%. So when it comes down to just me looking, it does look like they missed on revenue. They're lowering guidance for the future. The cash, again, until I actually determine what they have. Actually, I do have this up. Earnings call starts in around 4 minutes. But previously, they're burning roughly around 51.26 million. So, and this was based on Q2 earnings, not looking at the Q3 yet. So just based on this cash, it's not sufficient. So they are going to have to dilute further. My own interpretation. So we'll have to listen to exactly what they say and how they're going to address that. But yeah, they don't have enough cash. They'll have to dilute. And with this whole reverse stock split, I feel like shorts are going to have a field day tomorrow, unless good news comes out, or at least they elaborate on this. So this came out at 4:02, oddly enough. So about them kind of expanding the pathogen detection on its FDA cleared T2 bacteria. So this might be maybe the saving grace. But a couple of things that I wanted to know, at least leading into their earnings, or at least to find out from their earnings, was about NASDAQ compliance. But with the whole reverse stock split now, that kind of, we know about that. Secondly, I wanted to know their marketing plan. What is their distribution model? And there's a couple of companies I've invested in the past that had a similar kind of revolutionary product, just they really missed and really messed up on the whole distribution. And that just, unfortunately, that company faded away into nothing. So I think that's something I'm going to be really listening to. But the fact that in their Q3 earnings, their future guidance, they do state that they are assuming 2.6 million in revenue for Q4 for this product. I'll have to find that. I would have assumed a little bit more. Like, I feel like, let's see, update. My apologies, 2.4. I keep saying 2.6, but 2.4 million, that's what's assumed for Q4. So you have to factor in, prior to this revolutionary technology, analysts were assuming that there's going to be around 3.6 million in revenue. So that's, I think they kind of did miss on all levels. So yeah, currently down 21.21%. Crazy stuff. So in about 2 minutes, just in case you are joining, I'm going to mute myself. We're going to listen to the earnings call. While this still does go on, though, I'll quickly rotate between the stock price, what shorts are doing, and just some other data points. But yeah, tomorrow's going to be a completely different field because we're going to, like, that whole reverse stock split is going to be kicked off. So that is going to be right here, in case you missed the news. So they could have done anywhere from a 1 to 50 to a 1 for 150, but they did a 1 for 100. Still not necessarily the best. And I know historically reverse stock splits aren't good. Sometimes it causes an overreaction, but that's the name of the game. Short-term pain, long-term benefit in some cases. And I think T2 might fall under that criteria. So yeah, in about 1 minute, and hopefully I'll keep checking for the actual document being submitted to the, they only submitted so far one document to the SEC, and that was an 8K at 4:01 today, but that was just more so this news right here. It was just this, so nothing crazy. Have you guys read through the earnings? What stood out to you, if any of you? Okay, so it is 3:30 now. So just so you guys are aware, like I said, I'll just mute myself. We'll listen to that, and then I'll pick back up and we'll kind of go over some highlights. But same thing as after hours, so you have to just anticipate there's going to be a lot of volatility.
Greetings. Welcome to T2 Biosystems preliminary third quarter 2023 financial results and business update call. At this time, all participants are in a listen-only mode. A question and answer session will follow the formal presentation. If anyone should require operator assistance during the conference, please press *0 on your telephone keypad. Please note this conference is being recorded. I will now turn the conference over to your host, Trip Taylor, Investor Relations. Trip, you may begin.
Thank you, operator. I'd like to remind everyone that comments made by management today and answers to questions will include forward-looking statements. Those include statements related to T2 Biosystems' future financial and operating results and plans for developing and marketing new products. Forward-looking statements are based on estimates and assumptions as of today and are subject to risks and uncertainties that may cause actual results to differ materially from those expressed or implied by these statements, including the risks and uncertainties described in T2 Biosystems' annual report on Form 10-K filed with the SEC on March 31st, 2023, and other filings the company makes with the SEC from time to time. The company undertakes no obligation to publicly update or revise any forward-looking statements, except as required by law. With that, I would like to turn the call over to Chairman and CEO, John 𝗪𝗠𝗧. John?
Thank you all for joining our third quarter 2023 results and business update call. Today, I will start by discussing our market opportunity and performance during the third quarter, including both the progress we have made across our three corporate priorities and updated financial outlook for the remainder of 2023. I will then address the press release that we issued earlier today before providing closing remarks and opening the call for questions and answers. Our mission at T2 Biosystems is to fundamentally change the way medicine is practiced through transformative, culture-independent diagnostics that improve the lives of patients around the world. We are applying our patented technology in three areas: sepsis, bioterrorism, and Lyme disease. These three markets also share a common need that we will discuss during today's call. That is the need for rapid detection and targeted treatment. Importantly, we believe these markets collectively represent a multi-billion-dollar market opportunity. Sepsis continues to exact an enormous human and economic toll. Sepsis is the number one cause of death in U.S. hospitals, claiming the lives of 270,000 Americans annually, plus another 80,000 who die in hospice each year. Sepsis is the number one cost of U.S. hospitalization, costing our healthcare system an estimated $62 billion annually. Finally, sepsis is the number one cause of 30-day rehospitalization in the U.S., causing 19% of sepsis survivors to be rehospitalized within 30 days and 40% within 90 days. T2 Biosystems products, including the T2Dx instrument, the T2 Bacteria Panel, and the T2 Candida Panel, are the only FDA-cleared products able to detect sepsis-causing pathogens directly from blood in just 3 to 5 hours, without the need to wait days for a positive blood culture. The need for rapid pathogen detection and targeted antimicrobial treatment is critical for patients at risk of sepsis, as data shows that mortality risk increases by up to 8% for each hour of delayed targeted antimicrobial therapy. A meta-analysis was completed analyzing 14 controlled studies comparing our sepsis products to blood culture-based products. The results, published in a peer-reviewed medical journal, showed T2 Biosystems products identified sepsis-causing pathogens 77 hours faster than blood culture-based products, allowed patients to receive targeted antimicrobial therapy 42 hours faster than blood culture-based products, allowed de-escalation of empiric antimicrobial therapy 7 hours faster than blood culture-based products, and allowed patients to leave the ICU or hospital 5 days faster than blood culture-based products. We believe the comparative advantages offered by our products over blood culture-based products are the key to improving patient outcomes, reducing costs, and addressing the global threat of antimicrobial resistance. The T2 Biosystems team achieved a number of important milestones during the third quarter of 2023, which we believe have better positioned the company for near and long-term success. We received FDA 510(k) clearance for the T2 Biothreat Panel. We received FDA Breakthrough Device designation for the Candida auris test. We filed the FDA 510(k) submission for the expanded T2 Bacteria Panel. We converted 20% of our debt to equity. We raised additional capital, and we regained compliance with NASDAQ market value of listed securities requirement. Our preliminary financial results for the third quarter of 2023 include total revenue of $1.5 million, which was comprised entirely of non-COVID product revenue, compared to $3.7 million in the prior year period. The decline was primarily due to a $1 million reduction in BARDA revenue, a $0.4 million sepsis test backorder, a $0.3 million reduction in international T2Dx instrument sales, and a $0.3 million reduction in COVID-19 test sales. The sepsis test backorder directly impacted T2Dx instrument and sepsis test demand during the third quarter and led to performance below our expectations. I'll discuss the actions we took and the progress made to address the backorder during our operations update. However, I'm pleased to report that as of today, we have already resolved the majority of the backorder that existed as of September 30th. We expect fourth quarter 2023 sepsis and related product revenue of $2.4 million, representing a sequential quarterly increase of 60% compared to the third quarter of 2023. As a result of the sepsis test backorder, we expect total 2023 sepsis and related product revenue of $7.5 million, representing a decline of 10% compared to 2022. As we have previously disclosed, there will be no BARDA revenue in the fourth quarter of 2023. We are very pleased with the recent progress in strengthening our balance sheet. As of September 30th, 2023, cash and cash equivalents totaled $24.3 million, including proceeds raised through our ATM facility during the quarter. We reduced our debt and quarterly interest payments by converting $10 million, or approximately 20% of the CRG term loan, to equity. We also implemented operating expense reductions at the end of the second quarter and headcount reductions throughout the first half of the year, which we have held at under 100 full-time employees. As we advance our mission, we remain focused on three corporate priorities. 1, accelerating our sales. 2, enhancing our operations. And 3, advancing our pipeline. We'll discuss each of these priorities in more detail. Starting with our first priority, accelerating our sales. Commercially, we're focused on expanding the installed base of T2Dx instruments and increasing sepsis test utilization in existing and new hospital accounts. In the third quarter, we executed contracts for 5 T2Dx instruments, including 2 in the U.S. and 3 outside the U.S. We achieved total revenue of $1.5 million, comprised entirely of sepsis and related product revenue. Sepsis test panel revenue was $1.1 million, and we ended the quarter with a $380,000 backorder, demonstrating continued demand for our products. Our commercial team is targeting new hospital accounts while working with existing accounts to increase their sepsis testing volumes. We have integrated the sales, medical affairs, and service teams to educate and align key stakeholders on broader sepsis testing protocols. Annualized U.S. sepsis test utilization during the third quarter was $108,000 per instrument, which was impacted by the sepsis test backorder. We believe our integrated commercial approach and clearing a substantial portion of the backorder can drive deeper penetration within each account over the near term. In a number of hospital accounts, annualized utilization is well above the $200,000 goal we expect to achieve on an annualized basis over time across our U.S. installed base. As a testament to our commercial team's strong efforts in increasing education and identifying use cases, our customers have continuously demonstrated their support by presenting case studies highlighting the benefits of our products at industry conferences. During the September Sepsis Alliance Summit, Butler Hospital presented on the critical need our products fill in accelerating pathogen identification time, enabling a rapid diagnosis with independent species identification. As we discussed on the previous call, Butler Hospital has developed a protocol to trigger the use of the T2 bacteria panel and have shown that the T2 bacteria panel allowed for targeted therapy as much as 37 hours faster than blood culture-based methods. At the upcoming ID Week conference in Boston, tomorrow, October 13th, hospital experiences with T2 Candida and T2 bacteria will be presented by infectious disease pharmacists from the University of Louisville Health System and Robert Wood Johnson University Hospital. Creating additional reference accounts like these hospital users is an important part of our commercial strategy. We're grateful for our strong customer support as they spread more awareness around our instrument's clinical and economic benefits. We continue to add to the clinical library, and this past quarter have been conducting studies to advance the capability to test in new ways. As a reminder, we announced a clinical collaboration with Vanderbilt University Medical Center during the second quarter to implement and evaluate our FDA-cleared T2Dx instrument and T2 bacteria panel in a clinical setting. Included in the clinical collaboration is a prospective study that will assess the capabilities of the T2 bacteria panel to improve clinical interventions and antibiotic usage for patients with a bloodstream infection. The T2Dx instrument has been installed at Vanderbilt, the IRB has been approved, and patient enrollment is expected to begin next month. We look forward to discussing future updates on this collaboration and clinical evidence once available. Bolstering our efforts is the increasing awareness of sepsis as a public health emergency. In September, we promoted Sepsis Awareness Month. September is recognized as a month to reflect upon the fact that sepsis takes a life every 90 seconds in the United States. Thomas Heyman, CEO of Sepsis Alliance, stated, quote, "Sepsis is a public health crisis that no one is talking about," end quote. We appreciate the work Sepsis Alliance is doing to raise awareness and educate people regarding sepsis. We commend Massachusetts Governor Maura Healey for recognizing the patient impact of sepsis and for issuing a proclamation to recognize September as Sepsis Awareness Month in Massachusetts. We also applaud the United States Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, or CDC, for taking action to streamline U.S. hospital sepsis program guidelines through their Hospital Sepsis Program Core Elements. The program is designed to help hospitals to implement, monitor, and optimize sepsis programs through 7 elements: hospital leadership commitment, accountability, multi-professional expertise, action, tracking, reporting, and education. By establishing these core elements, they aim to improve upon old, disjointed processes that have failed patients and created a massive burden for our healthcare system. It's extremely encouraging to have these additional stakeholders prioritizing awareness and calling for action to combat the public health threat of sepsis. Our message is being amplified by these external voices, and we expect this to stimulate additional conversations with potential customers and advance current dialogues. It's clear that significant change is required for how we manage patients suspected of sepsis. We're confident the growing public recognition can be a catalyst for positive change and that adoption of our sepsis products in U.S. hospitals will advance the standard of care. Following the FDA approval of the T2 Biothreat panel, we immediately shifted our focus with this product toward commercialization. We believe there are multiple opportunities to sell the T2 Biothreat panel, including to the U.S. Laboratory Response Network, state or public health labs, the U.S. Strategic National Stockpile, other government agencies, for example, CDC, NIH, and Department of Defense, and international governments that are U.S. allies. Given the ongoing wars in Europe and the Middle East, we believe the global population is at an increased risk for exposure to bioterrorism. We're proud to have developed a test to protect Americans from the consequences of deliberate or naturally occurring outbreaks of certain biothreat pathogens. Moving to our second priority, enhancing our operations. On our last call, we discussed numerous steps we had taken to enhance our operations, including our cost structure, balance sheet, supply chain, and manufacturing. Since our last call and the close of the third quarter, we have made significant progress addressing our manufacturing processes aimed at resolving the sepsis test panel backorder. At the end of the third quarter, the sepsis test panel backorder was $380,000. And I'm pleased to report that we've cleared the majority of the backorder in early October. We expect to clear the remainder of it this quarter, and we expect to finish 2023 with 0 backorder. The backorder was caused by a number of factors, including raw materials, personnel changes, processes, and equipment. we attribute the recent manufacturing improvements to the key measures we have previously implemented, including hiring a new vice president of operations, advanced procurement of raw materials, process improvements, and investments in equipment. The demand for our sepsis test panels within the U.S. and international markets remains strong. Moving to our third priority, advancing our pipeline. Our new product development priorities have targeted three areas: sepsis, bioterrorism, and Lyme disease. These represent areas of significant unmet medical need in which rapid detection can lead to faster targeted antimicrobial treatment and improved patient outcomes. We've been advancing 5 new products intended to expand the test menu on our FDA-cleared T2Dx instrument and drive increased adoption, including the T2 Biothreat Panel, the addition of Acinetobacter baumannii to our FDA-cleared T2 Bacteria Panel, the T2 Resistance Panel, the T2 Lyme Panel, and a Candida auris test. Each new test panel or test represents a differentiated solution to rapidly identify harmful pathogens and potentially allow clinicians to achieve faster targeted antimicrobial therapy. The T2 Biothreat Panel is a direct-from-blood molecular diagnostic test that runs on the FDA-cleared T2Dx instrument and simultaneously detects 6 biothreat pathogens in 4 hours, including the organisms that cause anthrax, tularemia, glanders, melioidosis, plague, and typhus. If not treated promptly, infections with the pathogens included on the T2 Biothreat Panel can result in mortality rates of 40 to 90%, according to Medical Aspects of Biological Warfare and the Center for Food Security and Public Health. The T2 Biothreat Panel clinical evaluation assessed the sensitivity and specificity to detect targets in blood samples containing a range of bacterial concentrations. The positive percent agreement or sensitivity for all targets at 1 to 3 times the limit of detection was 100% for all targets except Francisella tularensis, which was 94.3%. The negative percent agreement or specificity for all 6 targets in healthy and febrile blood containing no bacteria was 100%. We believe this represents unparalleled performance. As expected, we received FDA 510(k) clearance for the T2 Biothreat Panel during the third quarter of 2023, which allows us to market and sell the test in the U.S. The FDA 510(k) clearance marks a major milestone in our collaboration with the U.S. government, specifically BARDA, and our commitment to protect Americans from the consequences of deliberate or naturally occurring outbreaks of these biothreat pathogens. It's important to note that the T2 Biothreat Panel is the first and only FDA-cleared product able to simultaneously detect these 6 high-priority biothreat pathogens, and the only FDA-cleared multi-target biothreat product developed and manufactured by a U.S.-owned company. We believe these facts will be important in discussions regarding purchases of the T2 Biothreat Panel, which we intend to sell to commercial markets and governments. The expanded T2 Bacteria Panel, to include detection of Acinetobacter baumannii, is a direct-from-blood molecular diagnostic test designed to run on the FDA-cleared T2Dx instrument and provide results in just 3 to 5 hours, without the need to wait days for a positive blood culture. Adding Acinetobacter baumannii detection to our FDA-cleared T2 Bacteria Panel will expand our detection capabilities to approximately 75% of all sepsis-causing bacterial pathogens commonly found in blood culture. Acinetobacter baumannii can cause bloodstream infections, especially in critically ill patients, which can range from benign transient bacteremia to septic shock, and has been reported to have a crude ICU mortality rate of 34% to 43%. Acinetobacter infections rarely occur outside of healthcare settings in the United States and can disproportionately impact those with weakened immune systems, chronic lung disease, or diabetes. Acinetobacter baumannii can be resistant to many antibiotics, including carbapenems, which highlights the importance of rapid detection and targeted antimicrobial treatment. Today, we issued a press release to announce that we have filed an FDA submission for 510(k) clearance to add 𝗖𝗎𝗓𝗓 to the T2 bacteria panel, as scheduled. As a reminder, the CE marked version of the T2 bacteria panel, which we sell in certain international markets, already includes the detection of 𝗖𝗎𝗓𝗓. The T2 resistance panel is a direct from blood molecular diagnostic test designed to run on the FDA-cleared T2Dx instrument and simultaneously detect 13 antibiotic resistance genes known to cause antibiotic-resistant infections in just 3 to 5 hours without the need to wait days for a positive blood culture. The T2 resistance panel, which is marketed and sold in Europe under CE mark, detects resistance genes that may confer resistance to common antimicrobials, such as carbapenems, methicillin, and vancomycin. We have advanced the U.S. clinical trial, including completing patient enrollment, and we plan to file an FDA submission for 510(k) clearance after completing additional internal testing, including stability testing, which we expect to occur in the first quarter of 2024. As a reminder, the T2 resistance panel was granted breakthrough device designation by the FDA, which provides for a prioritized review process upon FDA submission. The T2 Lyme panel is a direct from blood molecular diagnostic test designed to run on the FDA-cleared T2Dx instrument and detect Borrelia burgdorferi, the bacteria that is the major cause of Lyme disease in the U.S. The T2 Lyme panel is intended to test individuals with signs and symptoms of Lyme disease and aid in the diagnosis of early Lyme disease. And we believe it will provide a significant advantage over currently recommended serological testing that requires the presence of antibodies, which can take the body 2 to 6 weeks to create post-infection. In 2022, our T2 Lyme panel was named a winner in the Lyme Innovation Accelerator, or LymeX, a partnership between the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services and the Stephen and Alexandra Cohen Foundation, the largest public-private partnership for Lyme disease that plans to award up to $9 million to future award winners. We've recently received additional interim funding from LymeX and submitted a phase 2 progress report, which will be evaluated for moving to phase 3 of the accelerator. We also received FDA breakthrough device designation for the T2 Lyme panel, which allows for a prioritized review process upon submission to the FDA. We've completed the early assay development for the T2 Lyme panel, and we established a preliminary level of detection, or LOD, of 2 CFU per ml. We're in discussions regarding the potential to initiate commercialization of the T2 Lyme panel as a laboratory-developed test, and subsequently plan to commence a U.S. clinical trial to support submission for 510(k) clearance to the FDA. The Candida auris test is a direct from blood molecular diagnostic test designed to run on the FDA-cleared T2Dx instrument and detect Candida auris species in just 3 to 5 hours without the need to wait days for a positive blood culture. Candida auris is a multi-drug resistant fungal pathogen that has a mortality rate up to 60% and is recognized as a serious global health threat by the CDC and the World Health Organization. Candida auris is difficult to identify with standard laboratory methods, which can lead to inappropriate treatment. The CDC estimates the costs associated with U.S. fungal diseases in general are as high as $48 billion annually, and has called on public health professionals to help lower the burden of fungal disease by continuing to raise awareness of the life-saving benefits of early detection and proper treatment. As a reminder, we currently market and sell the T2 Candida panel, the only FDA-cleared diagnostic test able to detect sepsis-causing Candida pathogens directly from blood in just 3 to 5 hours without the need to wait days for a positive blood culture. The T2 Candida panel runs on the FDA-cleared T2Dx instrument and simultaneously detects 5 Candida species, including Candida albicans, Candida tropicalis, Candida parapsilosis, Candida krusei, and Candida glabrata, which causes over 90% of Candida blood infections. Rapid detection of these pathogens, as well as Candida auris, is essential to getting infected patients on targeted antifungal therapy and improving patient outcomes. During the third quarter of 2023, we received FDA Breakthrough Device Designation for the 𝗪𝗓𝗪 test, which provides greater and more frequent access to the FDA and may accelerate our path to FDA clearance. Regarding our longer-term product development initiatives, while we met all milestones set forth in the BARDA contract related to the next generation instrument and comprehensive sepsis panel, or AMR panel, BARDA informed us that our milestone-based product development contract ended on September 15, 2023, upon the expiration of Option 3. Following the recent FDA 510(k) clearance for the T2 Biothreat panel and the recently completed patient enrollment for the T2 Resistance panel, BARDA has decided not to fund additional product development under this contract. We may apply for additional BARDA funding under new contract solicitations. Earlier today, we issued a press release announcing a reverse stock split at a 1-to-100 ratio, effective today, October 12, 2023, and to begin trading on a split-adjusted basis when the market opens tomorrow, October 13, 2023. Proportional adjustments will be made to the number of shares of common stock reserved for issuance under the company's equity incentive plans and the number of shares of common stock subject to outstanding warrants, convertible preferred and Series A stock held by CRG Servicing LLC, and equity awards, as well as the applicable share price. The reverse stock split will not affect the number of authorized shares of the company's common stock or the par value of the common stock. As a reminder, NASDAQ capital market listing rules require the company to maintain a market value of listed securities of at least $35 million and a minimum bid price of $1. On July 6, 2023, we participated in an appeal hearing with the NASDAQ that led to a formal response approving our appeal and granting an extension to regain compliance until November 20, 2023. As previously reported, we regained compliance with the market value of listed securities requirement on August 7, 2023. While we have seen an increase in our stock price since the July 6 NASDAQ hearing, our stock price has not increased enough to achieve the minimum bid price organically. Therefore, our board of directors has decided to effect the reverse stock split to bring the company into compliance with the minimum bid price and maintain our NASDAQ listing. We believe it's in the best interest of the company and our stockholders to maintain our NASDAQ listing for several reasons. 1, to maintain liquidity for the stock. 2, to broaden opportunities for future access to capital. 3, to attract and compensate employees. And 4, to pursue potential mergers and acquisitions. I also want to clarify how this impacts the actions we have taken to reduce our debt and quarterly interest payments. In July, we announced the conversion of $10 million, or approximately 20% of our term loan with CRG Servicing, LLC, or CRG, into 48,345,798 shares of common stock, which CRG sold during September 2023. Additionally, CRG is entitled to convert 93,297,259 shares of Series B convertible stock into shares of common stock. As a result of the reverse stock split announced today, the Series B convertible preferred stock would convert to 932,973 shares. In summary, we achieved important milestones across our 3 corporate priorities during the third quarter of 2023. Commercially, we continue to increase our global T2Dx instrument installed base, maintain strong demand for our sepsis test panels, raise awareness of the value of our products directly and through key opinion leaders and clinical evaluations at prestigious hospitals like Vanderbilt University Medical Center. Operationally, we strengthened our balance sheet and we made significant progress in our supply chain and manufacturing operations to address the sepsis test backorder. Scientifically, we received FDA 510(k) clearance for the T2 Biothreat panel, received FDA Breakthrough Device Designation for the 𝗪𝗓𝗪𝗧 test, filed the FDA 510(k) submission to add detection of 𝗪𝗎𝗓 baumannii to the T2 bacteria panel, and advance the T2 resistance panel toward FDA 510(k) submission. I'd like to turn the call back over to the operator to open the line for questions. Operator?
Thank you. At this time, we will be conducting a question and answer session. If you would like to ask a question, please press star one on your telephone keypad. A confirmation tone will indicate your line is in the question queue. You may press star two if you would like to remove your question from the queue. For participants using speaker equipment, it may be necessary to pick up your handset before pressing the star keys. Once again, please press star one on your phone at this time if you wish to ask a question. And please hold while we poll for questions. And the first question today is coming from Kyle Mikson from Canaccord. Kyle, your line is live.
Hey guys, thanks for taking the questions. Congrats on the FDA news. Just on the financials in the quarter. So last quarter, you exited with a back order of $350K. This quarter, you ended with back order of $380. It's pretty close to net neutral. I just, like, wouldn't this quarter, like this result here, be kind of a normalized quarter, I guess? Is that the wrong way to think about it? Just seems like the 380 was a headwind, or characterized as a headwind. Just wondering if you can like dive into that a bit more. And secondly, this whole lag in revenue recognition, the back order situation, is that, just remind me, are you confident that can end soon, or is that going to just continue going forward? Thanks.
Sure. Thank you, Kyle. John Sprague isn't available today, so I'm going to take that question. The first thing on the back order at the end of the second quarter compared to the back order at the end of the third quarter, it's not really the same back order. So we cleared the majority of the back order that we ended the second quarter with. Obviously, we weren't able to make and ship enough product based on the demand that we had for the third quarter, so we ended the third quarter with a back order. They happen to be of similar size, but that's more by coincidence than just one moving on to the next quarter. As far as the end date, we have already cleared the majority of the back order, that $380,000 that we ended Q3 with. We expect to continue clearing that over the next week. We expect to have zero back order at the end of the fourth quarter, and we believe that the mitigations that we put in place to address it, both in the second quarter and in the third quarter, are working, and we expect it to be completely resolved this quarter.
All right, great. That was super helpful. And maybe, John, could you talk about the incremental market opportunity that this new pathogen provides that you announced in the press release with the FDA? Just, I think you mentioned like 75% of pathogens now for bacteria, but what does that mean in terms of like dollars or just opportunity in general?
Well, I think it's really important, Kyle, and thanks for asking that question. One of the pushbacks that we get, certainly from competitors, but often also from customers, is why would I bring on a technology that can only identify 5, or in the case of adding 𝗪𝗎𝗓, 6 bacterial pathogens? Like, how is that going to help me in my sepsis protocols and manage my patients at risk of sepsis? And interestingly, when we ask them to show us the positive blood cultures, positive bacterial blood cultures, typically what we see is the 5 pathogens, and now of course 6, cover somewhere between 70 and 80% of the positive bacterial specimens that they see. They're generally surprised by that. And so the importance of adding 𝗪𝗎𝗓 is we take our detection capabilities, when you look at all the data that's out there, from approximately 70% with 5 pathogens to approximately 75% with 6 pathogens. And the other thing that's really important, just to remind everyone, that the pathogens that we have on our T2 bacteria panel were chosen for a reason. One, because we get pretty broad coverage with 5 and now hopefully 6 targets, but also because those are the targets that are generally resistant to broad spectrum empiric antimicrobial, or in this case, antibiotic treatment. So we chose them for a reason. They're resistant to broad spectrum, and because of that, they lead to the longest hospital stays, the greatest cost, and the worst patient outcomes. So we're obviously super excited to add 𝗪𝗪𝗓. We have it internationally, and it has been an important part of driving adoption outside the U.S.
Okay, that's interesting. Thanks, Sean. On the instrument placement side, so 5 in the quarter executed, annualized, that's 20, and you did 51, I guess, last year for the full year. Can you just talk about the dynamics in terms of like demand for instruments or maybe, bottlenecks in terms of like shipments or something? And internationally, you actually had a stronger quarter than domestic. I mean, there's a lot of macro headwinds kind of going on. I would have figured that might have been weaker, but I just wanted to give you the opportunity to kind of talk about the placement situation.
Sure. I wouldn't read anything into the international demand versus domestic demand. I think at a high level, it's generally easier to drive adoption in markets outside the U.S. U.S. is the strictest regulatory environment. That's why historically, when you look at how most new companies introduce new products to the market, they start in Europe and then they come to the U.S. So I think that's actually a positive. We're obviously disappointed with 5 instruments. That's not where we expect to be. The back order absolutely impacted that. The other impact of a back order is we couldn't get new customers to go live as fast as we wanted them to. So instruments that we shipped in Q2 were still backlogged in terms of going live, as well as instruments in Q3 because we needed to take care of our existing customers first. So the back order doesn't just impact the potential sales in the quarter, but it also impacts going live with instruments, and it impacts selling instruments to new customers or additional instruments to existing customers. So it impacted the whole business. Again, that's why we put so much emphasis on resolving it and why we feel good about it being completely resolved in the fourth quarter.
Okay, and there's one more I'm going to hop off after that. The gross margins, that's a key metric that you've been trying to improve. Maybe just talk about how that progressed in the quarter. Like we don't really have visibility into that, I think, here in the press release. And then how does the back order situation kind of impact that? Because you would think that maybe it's all substance test revenue, that's higher margins recurring. So how do all these moving pieces sort of fit together, I guess, with gross margin, and how is that improving?
So you're absolutely right, Kyle. Having lower test sales, which is the razor blade of the razor blade model, is not favorable when it comes to gross margins. We haven't finalized our Q3 results. They're obviously still subject to review. So we're not reporting on gross margins yet. We'll do that in the normal course in the first half of November.
Okay. How about cash burn? Is that something you can kind of comment on, possibly, just given it's like a profitability type metric, I guess?
Well, we finished the quarter with $24.3 million in cash. We had finished Q2 with $16.1. We're obviously in a better cash position. Our balance sheet is strengthened also through the conversion of debt to equity and the lower interest payments that go along with that. So we feel much better this quarter with the cash position and the runway than where we were at the end of Q2.
Okay, yeah, it was more of like a going forward type question, but that sounds good. All right, thanks so much for the time. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Kyle.
Thank you. The next question is coming from Ben Haynor from Alliance Global Partners. Ben, your line is live.
Good afternoon, gentlemen. Thanks for taking the questions, and congrats on the T2 Biothreat clearance. First off, for me, you mentioned, 5, 6 potential customers for the T2 Biothreat panel. How many of those institutions or agencies have you been in contact with? How are the discussions coming there? Any color that you can provide?
Sure, Ben. First of all, thanks for the question. The first thing I want to do is just hit on 3 really important points about the T2 Biothreat panel and just really emphasize these. The first is that the 6 targets that are on our panel are unique. The T2 Biothreat panel is the first and only FDA-cleared product able to simultaneously detect those 6 high-priority biothreat pathogens. There is another multi-target biothreat product that is manufactured by a French-owned company. 3 of the targets are similar to our panel. 3 of them are not. That product is entirely controlled by Department of Defense. Ours is not. So we have unique targets. The second point I want to make is that we believe the performance of our product, the sensitivity and specificity, is unparalleled. With sensitivity was 100% on 5 targets and 94.3% on the other. And the specificity was 100% across all 6 targets. I've not seen that kind of performance in a multi-target molecular diagnostic test outside of BioThreat, certainly not within. And then the third, which I think is really important when we talk about procurement of this test or sales of this test to U.S. government entities. This product is made by a U.S.-owned company. It's the only FDA-cleared multi-target BioThreat product developed and manufactured by a U.S.-owned company. And with the Buy America First mandate, we think that's going to be important. So to your question about the target market opportunities, I mean, just to reiterate them, the U.S. Lab Response Network, it's about 30 labs across the United States that routinely test for these kind of pathogens and others. So that's a clear opportunity. State and public health labs, that's within the call point of our current commercial team. The stockpile and other government agencies like CDC, NIH, DOD, those are going to be more of a corporate account type sale that would be made by myself or others in the organization. And international governments, the same. They would have to be allies, of course. And we're actively engaged in those discussions.
Okay. And, I mean, is there any sort of timeline that is associated potentially with these things? I mean, is there RFP processes now that it's FDA cleared, or anything from any of these folks that, or any of these entities that you can kind of hang your hat on, or investors can hang their hat on and say, you know, this is what is the potential out there?
Well, I think the good thing is they're all a little bit different. The strategic stockpile, that's obviously a process. It's a government-led process. The LRN labs is probably a little less structured than that, but also it's a government-led process. State and public health labs, those could happen anytime, and you know, as well as international governments. I think there's obviously a lot of emphasis on what's going on around the world, and the threat of bioterrorism is real.
Okay, that's fair enough. And then on the investments in equipment on the production side to kind of help deal with the backorder, are those significant investments in equipment, and do those expand your production capacity, or what's the right way to kind of wrap your head around those?
I wouldn't consider them consistent. We're talking about a piece of equipment that might cost $10,000.
Okay, so not significant, and don't think about it as you know, really expanding capacity or anything like that.
That's correct.
Okay, great. I think the backlog questions kind of been asked and answered, so I guess I'll leave it at that. Thanks a lot for taking the questions.
Thank you, Ben. Appreciate it.
Thank you. There were no other questions at this time. I would now like to turn the call over to John 𝗪𝗠𝗪 for closing remarks.
Thank you all for participating in our preliminary Q3 results report and business update. We look forward to updating as we go forward. Thank you and have a great night.
Thank you. This does conclude today's conference. You may disconnect your lines at this time. Thank you for your participation.
Okay. Well, wasn't that fun? Okay, so just to give you a quick summary, a lot of that is over my head jargon. I kind of made some notes midway through, but numbers look bad. So Q3 numbers, they tried to make it look good. It wasn't good. They don't have enough cash, so $23.5 million. Some of you might disagree with me, but I'm just giving you quick coolest notes of it, but not enough cash, so they will have to dilute in Q4. Kind of signaled that, especially with the agreement concluding, which one was it? BARDA. So they're not going to get any more additional funding from that. So even more reason, and plus that's exactly the reason why they said that they want to stay on the NASDAQ, and why they're doing the reverse stock split is for additional capital. So that is going to be coming later this quarter. A couple of things they did say on a positive note, they are clearing the back order. They anticipate that to be done in Q4. Revenue is a little bit low, so that 2.4 million versus the 3.6, which was previously forecasted for Q4. So I think if you want to consider it as a meet or beat, they've lost. they missed on all of them, unfortunately, on all metrics. One good thing though is that their product seems to, at least based on taking his word for it, seems to be on point. So I think it's one of those scenarios that it's a very good product, just bad balance sheet leading into that. And a lot of biotechs are like that. This is why there's a lot of acquisition. So you never know. This could be a takeover opportunity as it gets very cheap, because you have to factor in it's only a 58 million market cap company. So very, very small. And they're burning through a significant amount of money. And only 23.5 million, not necessarily the best, but good results. Definitely. That's one thing that I really took from it. Just the numbers weren't really there. So, and tomorrow will be a very different ball game about the whole reverse stock split. So that is going to be a 100-to-1 ratio. So assuming it stays where it is, then yeah, it's going to be opening at $13 tomorrow, $13.05 to be exact. So yeah, it's going to be a whole different ball game going into tomorrow. What's your guys' takeaway on some of the earnings? To be fully honest, I've covered a lot of different stocks and I wasn't anticipating any analysts, but two did come. So one from Canaccord, other one was from Lant Global Partners. So I was kind of interested to hear. Kyle's actually from Canaccord, kind of did sound scripted. I think someone actually put that in the chat. It did sound very scripted, unfortunately. But you never know. That's a good sign, genuinely, that analysts are actually looking at it. So Sharp. Okay, so that's a good kind of segue. So just in case you guys have options, just so you're aware, if you guys have options, you will need to contact your broker, because your broker will be making a custom chain for you, because as soon as, most likely there won't be any options tomorrow. It takes typically a day, so probably kicking off on Monday. But what happens is your broker will make a custom chain for you, essentially, and it's going to be, every broker does things differently. So for instance, going over here, looking at T2. So the most common one is at 50 cents. So there's around 16,000 in open interest right now for this upcoming monthly. They only have monthly options anyways. So they might adjust it where the strike price is resembling the 100-to-1 or the 1-to-100 reverse stock split, or they might adjust the number of shares that you get. You might actually only get one share for your option, whereas normally it's 100. But typically, assuming there is no hiccups from brokerages amending stuff, then yeah, it'll be open tomorrow at, now assuming this, so $12.80. So as far as, I think someone asked a question, what will it look like? It's just going to be a typical trading day. So for instance, the stock price will go up by 100, so 100x, and your share count will go down. So if you have, for instance, I don't know, like 10 shares. I don't know if they said that they're going to do any rounding up or not, but typically it's take your shares divided by 100. That's going to be your new share count tomorrow. And I will double check to see if they, okay, so it says no fractional shares will be issued. So for instance, if you have 99 shares, your broker might be kind and just round it up, but most likely if this is holding true, if you have 99 shares, you are going to get paid out by your broker. So your broker is just going to simply pay you the whatever dollar value equivalently is. So yeah, it's going to be an interesting day. A lot of less volatility. So today there was around 207 million shares, average is 80. And keep in mind, one thing I have experience with, unfortunately, some interesting stocks in the past that have done reverse stock splits. And one thing is that they're keeping the actual authorized shares the same. I noticed that he did say that. So when it comes down to it, they're enacting the reverse stock split, but essentially they could still dilute up to the same amount that they could, the authorized shares. Offhand, I don't really know what it is. So if anyone knows, throw it in the chat. HU, buy or sell. Personally, I did buy a small amount today. And actually I did kind of dabble with it over the last little bit anyways, because the technicals were looking fairly good. But personally, if I had a lot of money and you needed it, I would sell. I know that's going to hurt some people. My apologies. I don't mean to say that, but sometimes biotechs are extremely volatile. Reverse stock splits are going, like, especially a 1-to-100 reverse stock split is going to get slaughtered tomorrow, unless there's a good piece of news that comes out from the company. But I think a lot of people are now thinking about this earnings missing on a lot of fronts, people realizing that they don't have enough capital for Q4, meaning there's going to be more dilution. It's just not going to be pretty of a day tomorrow. So as far as my estimate, I think that it might be another about 30% red day tomorrow. Potentially. It could be worse, could be better, could be all over the place. But yeah, it's an interesting stock, and it's one of those unfortunate scenarios of the market. A very good product that clearly the stats really speak for itself. There is a massive demand for it out on the market. There's been a lot of articles talking on how sepsis is going to be in massive demand, but the balance sheet doesn't work. So if anything, I think that maybe tail end of Q4, maybe early Q1, if this hasn't figured itself out yet financially, then it most likely will be a takeover opportunity, potentially. And shorts are going to have a pretty big field day tomorrow as well. So hopefully everyone enjoyed that. It was a little bit more of a dry earnings. A lot of that I didn't, like, I tried to make some notes, but a lot of that is fairly over my head, of course. Like I said, I'm more of a looking at stats type of individual, just the balance sheet, numbers driven. When they're talking on the specifics, on the metrics, on the actual instruments and stuff, that kind of went over my head. But yeah, so tomorrow will be a different ball game. Ning, I appreciate you guys. You guys believe it penny stocks, I buy more. You know what? You can make money on anything. If you're flipping, you could easily, if you're looking at technicals, anytime it goes outside the Bollinger Band, you can easily buy. That typically causes it to go up, similar to right here, causes retracements up. So yeah, you can make a good amount of money if you time it right. If you're thinking long term, I would probably wait until Monday. I could be wrong. You never know. It could go up like 50%, 60% tomorrow, but I think the probably most damaging day might be tomorrow, in fact. And then moving on, then yes, people will probably start to focus on the actual data, on the results of what they are going to be doing in Q4. And it's good to see that they are actually going to be generating money from this actual product already in the sum of about 2.4 million. So that's a good thing. It's not as good as what people or analysts were assuming, which was 3.6 million, but yeah, it is what it is. But I appreciate you all watching. Stay tuned for more follow-up videos in the next couple of days. And yeah, I appreciate you all guys all watching.